All right, and we're live. Ed, thanks again for joining, man.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Hey, real quick, where are you calling in from?
I'm in the UK, sort of well, I live in a really rural area, but we're closest to probably Manchester is the place where people might know of. We're about 40 miles from Manchester.
Manchester. Okay. What time is it over there at this point?
It's just gone past 4 p.m.
4 p.m. Okay. So it's 10 a.m. where I am. So I just want to, give a good afternoon to everyone in the UK outside of
And good morning to
Manchester, and
everybody
good
there.
morning. That's right. Thank you for that. Hey, let me set the stage really quickly. And we just again thank you for joining the ranking stream. The ranking stream is tailored towards SEOs of all skill levels. So whether you're a beginner or expert, we're always looking to interview and bring on guests. Essentially SEO experts, tool builders, anyone who could provide value and resources to folks who are actually doing the SEO and are actually operating and running campaigns, doing the link building, so you know how important tools are in our space. So again, I'm excited to learn a little bit more about your tool. We were talking a little bit before the stream in terms of what your tool does a little bit, but Ed, founder of let me make sure I get this right. Keywords people use, which is
Yeah.
amazing domain. Obviously, it's like something super obvious that to me, like when there's some tools, I mean, I think even ours as well, it's like you hear the name, you're like, what the hell does that tool actually do? Yours seems pretty obvious, right? You're the founder of the tool. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about the tool, how you came up with the idea, and like what it does?
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So, I mean, my backstory, which sort of fills into why the tool came about. I've been in affiliate marketing for nearly 20 years, basically, 2004. And so I've been doing SEO for a long, long time. But I've never been an SEO for other people. I've always just done it for my own sites. Um, now, this comes about because I've always had a strategy of how I do content, which is I'm looking to find three types of content, and it's all based around answering people's questions, because everyone who goes to a search engine has a question that they're trying to get answered. So I never really think about keywords in terms of keyword volume, or trying to specifically target individual keywords like some people do. I always think I've got to answer the questions that people are asking. So that's where it comes about. So it's all about answering questions. And then there's three ways of answering questions. There are tools. So, for example, a site I used to own, which I sold recently, was broadband.co.uk, and the tool on that site was people could put in their postcode or zip code, if it was in the US, and find deals and broadband available in their area. So that's a tool. So that tools are great for generating links. People will link to a site that's got a tool on. The second type of content is long form content, and that's kind of like evergreen guides. So an example would be like a beginner's guide to broadband. And we're not trying to answer just one specific question in there, but we're trying to answer lots of questions that are going to be as timeless as possible. And then the third sort is short form guides, and that's really more topical stuff. So for example, if a broadband supplier has launched a new deal, that's got a limited time span. That's the kind of question we want to answer, questions about that deal in a short form. That's much shorter content, and they all kind of mix in together, because the short term ones, the short content you link that to your longer form guides, and your longer form guides you link to your tool for your internal linking. But they're all based around questions. So back in the early 2000s, when we first started broadband.co.uk, you didn't really know what people were asking. There were very few tools around, and Google didn't give away a lot much either. That kind of started to change around 2008, when autocomplete came out of labs and became default in Google. So that's where you start typing and it starts making suggestions from what you're typing as to what the query you might be wanting to fulfill. Right. So that's based on the data that they've gathered from other people asking questions. So that's real user data. And then in 2015, they added people also asked. which is much better because it really gives you the whole question, and it is only questions. Autocomplete can be a bit, iffy sometimes, and there's some weird things come up in it. But the people also ask is really good questions. So from this data, you can pull it out manually, and you can then build up a huge range of questions that you can then start to categorize what kind of content you need to answer it. So you can find out questions that you can see a tool being a good way of answering, and you might want to develop a tool. You can see content that's suited to a long form guide, the questions that, that question is going to be asked again and again and again, year after year after year after year. And then you can pull out the ones which are much more to the moment. It might be like, what a new TV series that's out, people asking questions about that. And that once that TV series is done and gone, that's going to die down a bit. So it's not really got any longevity. So you can start to categorize those and then build a content strategy around it. And that's what we've done with our affiliate sites for 20 years. And we've been very successful with it. So we got to the point of thinking, let's start automating some of this process so that we can just be more efficient. And as we were doing it, we realized actually this is potentially a product. Other people will want to do this. And that's where we built keywords people use. And yeah, the name, I like naming things what they are. It does what it says it's on the tin, and they're keywords that people use. I mean, I could have put it as questions people ask. It's would be as good a name. And yeah, the whole idea here is it helps us just shortcut the process. We can now, instead of it taking days to collate this data manually, creating spreadsheets, going through doing query after query after query, we can now just whack in a topic, whack in a question, whack in a brand, and query it in multiple ways, and come up with all the answers and visualize the answers, download the answers. We can set up alerts. That's really good for the topical stuff because they're the ones that come along and you don't want to miss them. You don't want to be constantly searching for them. So the tool automates it, so you can say, anyone talks about this brand, any new questions that pop up, send me an email. So it will email us every day or at whatever frequency you want. So you can then pick up and not miss these things. So it's kind of doing the work for you, basically.
How competitive is the landscape in terms of competing with like forums? Because I know like a lot of forums, typically you get a lot of these questions kind of answered. How competitive are these forums, or do you find yourself competing with some of these kind of websites that, Quora, some of the other, I guess some niche specific ones, depending on your affiliate marketing campaign, but is it at all competitive, or how do you deal with that? Yeah.
Forums are good for very specific questions. So for example, like in the broadband example, someone is having a difficulty with a particular router or piece of equipment doing a particular thing, might go to a forum where they can do a back and forth question with someone. But if you wanted to go to a forum and say, what's the best broadband deal in this area for my specific needs? I want a particular download speed. I want to see the different prices. I want different contract lengths. I want different TV channels added on. A forum's not the right place to ask that. You want a kind of a tool you can interrogate and work through and find what's right for you. And then for the long form guides, that's where you really want, that's like in-depth guides where you're not going to get an in-depth answer on Quora. You'll get, people give some decent answers, but you're not going to get a 2,000 word answer that covers the topic in detail. And then the short form stuff, again, you might get Quora or something like that does that, but it very much depends on the niche. Quora and Reddit are very popular in certain areas and less in others, but it's a different, the people looking for these answers, they're different to the kind of person that goes to Reddit or Quora. I mean, if you're really big into Reddit or Quora, you'll probably live your life on there and ask all your questions on there, and you're that kind of user. Whereas the kind of the users we normally aim at, obviously we're trying to monetize people. We're trying to guide them towards, as affiliates, we're trying to guide them towards a product. This works for display advertising, but it's just display is something that we don't do a lot of because we're better at the affiliate side, and the affiliate side generates much more income per visitor if it's done well compared to display. Yeah.
That's super fascinating. And when thinking about like a tool, I know Answer the Public was one of the go-tos for a while, and Neil Patel bought it, and it's this wild tool now. It's huge. But how does your tool kind of differentiate between something like Answer the Public? How is it kind of different in that regard?
Well, it's similar and different at the same time. So some of the data that we pull out, Answer the Public will pull out similarly. But obviously, we don't just Answer the Public is just autocomplete responses. So that's just like one part of what our tool does. With our tool, we do Google autocomplete, which is basically like Answer the Public. But we also query that people also ask questions. We can also query Reddit and Quora, which is, like you said, but to be fair, that Reddit and Quora could be a good place to find the questions that people are interested in, answering them in a better way. But we do that.
Right.
We can go through Reddit and Quora. We've also got keyword discovery, which is it goes back to also autocomplete from Google, but rather than using just a set bunch of modifiers like how, when, where, what, we actually take the modifiers from within the first results that come back. So you get a much more in-depth range of modifiers that are more topic specific compared to just using standard ones all the way through.
Right.
And we also we've also got some functionality that will actually go and crawl the top 5 of the top 10 results for a term and pull out headers from within the content on there that also surfaces questions. So you can see what the people who are already ranking for the term are actually what questions that they've surfaced and are using to rank.
Interesting. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. It brings me to like the idea of like, obviously features are always going to be different between tools. I sounds like yours just kind of has, definitely tunes in different like user intent based on like what a user's looking for, what type of affiliate, what type of niche, and not just the questions, but suggested search. When it comes down to like finding, obviously let's just say you have your niche, you have a website you want to build for your affiliate. I know you mentioned you have a huge portfolio of these affiliate sites. Do you kind of start at the question and kind of work your way backwards to like the head terms? Because I'd imagine that questions are a little bit more of a long tail, situation where like a person is asking a specific question, maybe for a specific product or has a specific need. Do you kind of work backwards in that regard, or do you kind of start, do you kind of reverse engineer it? Or what's your approach to like finding the questions and building a content strategy?
I mean, our approach is basically top down. So we'll start with a niche, and we'll so I mean, the tool's also great just for doing niche research. So if you want looking to do a new site, and it's just great for thinking, well, let's have a look at this topic, and you can. I mean, I play about with it all the time. So I put in like horse nutrition, and you can just start with horse nutrition, and then it'll just then generate a whole load of questions, and from there it will suggest sub questions and subcategories below that, and you can dive through it and see, is there enough differing content here to be able to create an authority site off this? Are there enough topic clusters we can pick out of this? Is this broad enough, and also is it monetizable enough? So we can then start top down. You can put a very detailed question in, and from that you can find all the questions around that and go further down from that. But we tend to start top down when we're doing it, basically.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. I find that, I mean, I'm sure there's super advanced ways. I mean, you could find a good niche, but typically I'll have somebody who, I'll look through a bunch of domains. I'll kind of look at certain industries. I'll look at maybe expired domains, or if someone's selling a, old domain or age domain, and I'll kind of do my research there. I'll plug that, domain into Ahrefs or, Ahrefs, and get the understanding of like its historical data, do the whole research inside of, excuse me, the Wayback Machine. And, Yeah, I find that like that's typically the way I kind of select the niche is just doing a bunch of research and finding like what actually works. Excuse me. What's your kind of strategy for finding a good niche?
Yeah, I mean, some we've fallen into.
Excuse me.
So the broadband niche we fell into because we happened to
Sorry.
own the domain name broadband.co.uk back in 2000. Before broadband was internet connection, it was just a word, and we happened to own that domain. And then when they started rolling out, internet, it used to be dial-up, it became broadband. We were like, oh, we've got this domain, let's monetize it, because we were getting people emailing us saying, I want broadband. And we were like, we don't sell broadband. And that's
Right.
where we got into. We were just web developers before that. We were, we were a web agency, and all these people started contacting us wanting broadband. So it was like, right, well, let's create a comparison site. The word comparison sites didn't really exist then, so we were one of the first price comparison websites, certainly in the UK.
Wow.
And so that happened by accident. That niche kind of picked us. Well, then future ones, there's a couple of ways. One might be we can see there's an affiliate opportunity. So you might be something like mobile broadband came up, and then it's like, right, okay, well, we know that there's affiliate market in broadband, so then okay, yeah, there you go, there's mobile broadband. Electricity, which isn't such a great niche at the moment in the UK because of all the troubles there's been with electricity prices.
Right.
But there used to be a very thriving electricity switching market in the UK, and that was all affiliate based. You can make good money with that. So sometimes you follow the money, but other times you just think, actually, I might be interested in a topic, or you might just think there's volume there, and then you go and see if it's monetizable. I mean, I know that's why that's why display ads have got really popular in the past few years, because people have been able to monetize easily any topic. They just need volume.
Right.
Not something that's really been our bag, but I can see why that is now popular, because then you have any interest, and when there's volume, you can monetize. So yeah, I mean, I know people say you should always do something that you've got an interest in, but that doesn't necessarily always generate volume or income.
Right.
We're at the point we've been doing it long enough. It's a business, it's a job. We will go where there is both volume and where there is a market. Where we can monetize it.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, let's go down that scenario and say let's take a look at the tool and evaluate it from like a niche perspective to say if we had a niche, let's check out the tool, how it operates, and how you would basically go about finding some good keywords. So I think you have a demo loaded up, or are you prepared?
Yeah, well, this is the live site basically. So this is just it's the site as it is. So
all right, we got it.
So you can see here it's a very simple starting point. You've got a search box. We've got all the different kind of searches we can do here. So there's the Google autocomplete, which is a bit like Answer the Public. We've got People Also Ask, which will go into the People Also Ask mining that side of Google. We've got the Reddit and Quora search, the keyword discovery, which is like the more advanced autocomplete search. Content Explorer, which is we'll go and scrape other sites to see what questions they're asking. We've got an AI assistant, which is that's really like a little beta tool at the moment that we can we've plugged into OpenAI, and we can ask questions through that. But it's
very cool.
That's still a work in progress, but yeah. So, and then in here we can choose our language and our the country that we're going for. So I mean, you can niche down to pretty much any country in the world, anywhere where Google's active. We've got that on there. So if we'll just set it back to the United States, and we're on English. So let's just use an example I always like to use is Lego, or Legos, I think, as you call it in the States.
Right.
Because everybody knows what Lego is.
Right.
So if we search, so we're starting at the very top here. So we're saying this is very broad. Okay. We're just going to search Lego. Let's see what comes up. Okay. So we're doing a search on this. We're doing autocomplete to start with. So this is like you will see on similar to Answer the Public.
Very nice.
So we've got the why, when, what, which, who, can, how modifier, and here we can obviously see this brings up, this is like the clusters starting to come together for you already, in as defined here. And then if we scroll down,
so that data is based on Google Suggest, basically those questions up there.
Yeah. So it's Google Suggest. Yeah. And so then we've got all the data here, which we can, we can add to a key. Sorry, we can download it. So we can download the CSV of all that data. We can download the graphic if you want to share it with clients or internally, or just be able to see that. So the next one, people also ask. So this is now mine. People also ask questions. So again, here, you're starting to see the clusters come out amongst it. It's now going to suggest all the other searches within that. So we can see here, like, what are other similar searches that people go from Lego. So you see Lego sets, that's a good one. So we could click that, and it'll now do a search for, it's now querying back on Lego sets. And we get, a new set of questions here. And again here, we've got it in the data, so we can just read the questions if we want. And we can start adding these questions to, we have a thing called keyword lists, because obviously this generates so many questions.
Right.
You need to be able to manage those questions. So we can create a new list. We'll call it Lego. Save that. Set that as the default. And now we can add questions we like by just clicking the button here into, and that's now going to save to our keyword list. Or we can just click Save All, and that will just stick all of them in our keyword list. So as we go through looking, diving down further and further down, we can start picking out the questions that we want to save, and we can come back to them later. We can also create a search alert on any keyword, any question. So this will then schedule to run this query every so often and send you the new questions as they crop up. It won't send you all the questions. Well, the first time it sends you all the questions, but after that it only sends you new questions. And we can schedule that, daily, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, week, 2 weeks, month. So we can then have that send us new questions on autopilot without us having to come back in and requery it all the time. Send an email.
Sorry. Questions on that. Sorry. When you set the alert, will it send you questions around that root keyword, or is it in that cluster? Like, will it give me more?
It's in this cluster. Yeah,
Gotcha.
It's in this cluster. Yes, it's in the root one. So, so whatever we've searched for up here is going to be based on that. So that one's going to send us questions on Lego sets. But we can set them up on multiple ones basically. So if it's just we wanted to just know what the top 10 biggest Lego sets, you see, we could take that out. It'd be nicer if it was clickable. That's an idea, but we can put this in here.
Yeah,
and we can search that. I mean, this might be a question that's bottom of the funnel, and there might not be anything generated. Oh, yeah, it's got something. Yeah. So here, what are the 10 biggest Lego sets? And this is brought back a whole load of other questions. So we could then create a search alert on that one, and then we'll get more keywords as they come up on that one there. So yeah, and then it's also here suggesting Reddit and Quora searches for us. So we could say, all right, well, let's have a look. Big Lego sets for adults, and that's now querying Reddit and Quora, and there it visualizes it for you. They're the top questions that's picked out, and then we've got the data down here. And we can add. So we want to add these to a keyword list. We can just we'll save all them.
I love how simple it is. It's so clean, and it allows you to kind of hop around from the suggested search to, like you said, the Quora or Reddit questions as well. Also, what people ask. I like how it lets you to kind of jump around super easily there. When you're thinking about like some of these clusters, they're great questions, and obviously they create multiple variations. How does one kind of think about like a search volume in terms of whether to go after one question? How do you prioritize different questions over the others? I should say.
Okay, yeah. Like search volume is not something I get overly bothered about. I know that some people,
you mentioned
they're all about the volume on a particular keyword. What I'm looking for here is like we know. I mean, people search for logos. If this is a question that's surfaced by people also ask or by people suggest, people have asked those questions. These are questions that people, and enough people have asked for them to say, let's flag these. And obviously, within all these things, in a long form guide, you're going to answer multiple questions. You're going to cover loads of them. So you might uncover, say, through a bit of surfing around, you might uncover 1,000 or so questions. You're not going to create 1,000 pieces of content. That would just take forever. What you're going to do is you'll cluster those into, well, that's a beginner's guide question. Or say if it was Lego, it might be you've got the Harry Potter Lego, you see Harry Potter questions, well, that's a Harry Potter guide, isn't it? And you'll see space Lego, that's a space guide. And these are the questions we've got to fit into that guide. So search volume, I mean, probably a lot of these, if you put Lego in or Lego sets, they will have a search volume, I'm sure. But if you put down individual questions into most volume estimators, they'll say there's zero search for those. But it's just not true. The aim is to create content that is going to rank for hundreds and thousands of keywords, not just for one. You want to, and you'll pick up questions, you'll pick up keywords that you didn't intend to, but because your content is going to be good enough, because you've got enough base questions to fill out a long enough article, you've got enough questions that lead you to build a tool. And then you've got those the sort of the layer of questions, the smaller layer underneath, which are the ones that aren't going to generate a lot of volume and are very time sensitive, but they're the ones that are really there for internal linking back up to your long form guide and up to your tools, which are the ones that you monetize with.
That makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about it like that necessarily. If you're answering some questions, with any page you optimize from a basic SEO perspective, even with just like some generic terms, you look in your Search Console reports, you could see how many other keywords that specific page is ranking for. And typically they're like going to be other generic keywords as well. So I'd imagine that's a little bit higher, like in the funnel, where it's more like an awareness piece or informational piece. What you're kind of suggesting here, it sounds like, by answering a question, you get to rank for, of course, those other variations of terms that could be really highly specific as well. So it could, that page could be triggered not only for the questions that you're optimizing for that the tool delivers, but I'm really fascinated with like the variations of keywords that it also ranks for as well. The other questions that it ranks for, that the page could potentially rank for, and like the different variations of keywords if the page is optimized correctly.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to find once you put a piece of content live, especially the long form content, the long form guides, they're like a living piece. So the beginner's guide to broadband that I wrote the first draft of in 2004, and that's generated millions of page views over the past 18 years, and it's still ranking now. Still got my name on it, even though I don't own the site anymore.
That's amazing.
And but you revisit every so often. So you're doing like what you say. You look, what are those keywords that we can see we're picking up visibility on Search Console? Not necessarily traffic, but you're picking up visibility. And you think, all right, okay, now if I just tweak it, I can get it. I can boost it. So those pieces of content will change, because obviously broadband, the beginner's guide to broadband, changed over 18 years. New technologies came along that needed to be edited in, and you start to surface for more keywords. So yeah, that's totally what you do. You those long form guides. You're not going to write thousands of these long form guides. You're going to have a much smaller number. It's not. We're not doing the. I see people talking about, oh yeah, I'm going to put a blog up and I'm going to do 30 posts a month. I'm going to do 40 posts a month, and it's how many posts have I done? With this, we're looking. We don't need to do that many posts to generate huge amounts of traffic. We just need really good long form guides that really cover a subject. And some of those guides in the longer run, you might start to split out as new guides come from it. you know.
Right.
So for example, on that beginner's guide for broadband, originally there was one type of broadband, just ADSL. And then obviously came along local loop unbundling, and then it came along fiber to the cabinet, and then fiber optic. Might mean nothing to most people, these terms, but as the technology changed and it expanded out and new ones came along, that was like, okay, well, we now need a fiber optic guide. So we can break that out of the beginner's guide and just reference
Right.
it from that guide. And that becomes a whole new thing. And you start to build them out as the traffic and the niche and the topic, moves around you, moves on.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely. How often are you updating like older pages versus creating new pages for like new questions and based on what your research is telling you?
Well, like I say, it depends on the niche. Some niches don't move much. The
Right.
information doesn't change. So for example, if you're doing a history website, and you're concentrating on the history of, say, World War II or something, the actual timeline of World War II doesn't change. So
Right.
there might be you might start surfacing new topics within that, but some of the guide content won't change much. I'll say with broadband, that example was, as new technologies come along, every time a new technology comes along, you've got to go back and edit that guide. And once they become obsolete, you might need to just sort of archive those off, and say there's an old technology not available anymore. You might leave it in for completeness because you will pick up traffic from it, but you might relegate it down in the guide. So like with everything in SEO, it depends. You do as little as you need to, because you don't want to make changes for the sake of it. But if the winds are changing, then you need to go in and change it.
Amazing. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. A couple more questions. How important are links to your pages? Do you find that since these queries or since the research that your tool is providing, are they long tail enough to just kind of rank without links sometimes, even on a smaller, domain authority website? If you don't have a super, strong website, if it's relatively, I wouldn't say new, but if it's out there, doesn't have a strong link building profile, how important are links to you? Or do you find that you're able to rank with some of these queries because they're so niche?
Yeah. So the lower down the funnel the question is, the easier it is to rank without links. Because as long as if you're answering the question better than anybody else, or have just got it bang on, like the H1, it's bang on that question, or it's in an FAQ with a schema marked up right, you can start to rank for those without specific keywords. But obviously your aim is to build authority, so you start to rank for those sort of head terms. So if I was going to launch a Lego site tomorrow, I'm not going to rank for Lego straight off. I'm not going to rank for Lego sets straight off, because there are sites out there that have, got the authority, got the links ready, and you're not going to beat them straight away. But you can start to. That's where you need these much sort of longer tail keywords, which are much more specific and much longer. You'll start to pick up for them, and that's why I always try with every site to try and get a tool in there, something that's baitable. It's a link bait for someone will want to link to start to bring links into your site. That's how links are important to build authority. You do need them, but I try to attract them rather than go out and build them. And that's where the tools part comes in. And I know that can be tricky for people. It's not the easiest thing to do. And I know if you're a beginner, to start to build a tool, especially if you don't know how to develop, then don't worry about that right now. When you get to the point you've got some traffic, you can afford to hire a developer. You can afford to go on Upwork and get someone to build a tool for you if you want. That's why with all these, it's never you don't have to have all three. You don't have to build straight away with a tool, the long form content and the short form. You might just start with the short form, just the very just short form. Get going, get some content up, start to rank for some very long tail keywords, start to get a little bit of traffic, and from there, then you can build up those longer form guides. And then when you've got them, you're building traffic more, and you're starting to get some income. Then you can look to build a tool. And when you build that tool, that is what will then suck the links in. An example being keywords people use. I mean, we launched this in late September, early October last year. I just put it out there on Twitter. Added a few people, just made some noise on Twitter, try and get people to use it, and done no link building, done very little content, to be fair. With there's the sales content on the front page, which needs a lot of improvement. Trust me, I know that's the case. It's very much a beta.
No, it's not bad.
It's beta sales copy, but we're concentrating on making the tool work well. That's where we put our effort. And we've done no link building. But if you look at in Hrefs or any backlink checker, the links that we've generated, we've got Hootsuite, we've got Ghost.org, I think we've got a DA of 40 plus already. That's on a brand new domain. We just registered that domain in September.
Whoa, no way. September.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, and it's because it's a tool that does something. People will link to it because it's like they want to show people, look, this is useful.
Yes.
And it is useful, because we've got the freemium model and people can use it, a certain amount in a month for free. Loads of people are recommending it and recommending the tool. If it was just a website of just some content about the process that the tool fulfills, you're like, okay, with this process, do this, that, the other, do it by hand, it would have generated no links. It would have been valuable information, I'd like to say, but no one would have linked to it because God, who's going to, it's not as useful and as immediate as a tool. So that's the beauty of tools. They will get people links. So broadband got links because people linked to it because there was a comparison engine there. You could put your postcode in and find out what deals were available in your area, and that's why people would link to it in the main. People also link to the long form guides if they're trying to help people answer certain questions. That's sites that aren't your direct competitors, but I've got an audience that are interested in something like a money saving blog might link to a how to get the cheapest broadband guide.
Right.
So those long form guides will generate links, but not as well as tools. Tools always generate links the best, I find. But long form guides second, and the short form ones, unless you happen to really break some piece of news that no one, you're the first to break it and it's really hot. Right. Then you might generate some links from that, but it's rare. It's hard to do that. You're going to get beaten to it by newspapers and specialist publications most of the time. So those ones won't generate those links, but they do give you topical relevance for the now. That's what they're really good for that.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you in terms of tools being the link magnet, if you would, or link bait. I love how your recipe here involves someone going to the homepage, and I'll post a link in the chat just for everyone to kind of have that. I know we're able to see it on the screen, but I'll just post it there. And you're able to jump in the tool immediately. And with the amount of features, it's just you're easily able to get quote unquote like from one place to another, so that credit count or the searches count kind of link in with like the user's experience. Obviously, someone's going to try it. They're going to want more information as they dig deeper into the tool, and that's where you kind of your pricing model rolls in, which I believe is pretty fair. The pricing in itself is you kind of base it on searches. Is that correct? It's mainly on on usage in itself.
Yes.
And so
I think there's one thing I want to show. One thing I want to show, just sort of the new features on here.
I did have a question about one of your features. Before you go into that, and I did see the AI and all, because it's all of the craze right now. I know you mentioned it's still work in development, but can you explain just the vision for that specific feature in addition to the ones that you were going to talk about as well?
So, well, I mean, AI is great for research, and actually, we're testing it. We've actually, because we use this tool ourselves for our own site, and so we can actually generate content. We can answer the questions. So let me just get up. Let's just go to a search keyword discovery for Lego sets, and get up a good question. Find a good question. So this is the one where it's like uses autocomplete data, but it pulls out modifiers based on the first suggestion. So as we got Star Wars here as one of the modifiers, so it's brought up Lego Star Wars.
Okay.
So if we find Lego Star Wars, sometimes it's better if it's a question. So if you go with all these here, there's these little arrows by it. Now this is where if you click that arrow, it will actually create an answer for you. And it's now,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, it's from AI. So here we go. Popular Lego sets for 10-year-olds. It's actually now built this list of 10 sets using
Oh, that's pretty neat.
OpenAI. Yeah. So it's really good way of just getting you going. You
Right.
don't have to. You don't necessarily have to use it straight out as it is. Sometimes it will work though. So if we then go to go to here, and where there's people actually asking where we've got a question mark, because you tend to get better answers where it's an actual question. So what are the 3 biggest Lego sets? Let's try that one. And well, yeah, that's not. To be fair, I would have liked a better answer than that. What's the greatest Lego set of all time?
No, it's a good start though, in terms of the direction that it's kind of leading to. Greatest Lego set
so
of all
then
time.
it's come up with something. But especially if you're new to a niche and you don't know what is popular and things, it's a good place to get you going. But we have used this. We're actually testing it on one of our sites. It's a site that wasn't doing much. We launched it and then forgot about it, and it wasn't really generating much traffic at all. And we've not spent much time on it. So it's one where if it gets burnt, we don't mind. And we've put a load of content on. We went through, got a load of questions, stuck them on the homepage, and within we did this a couple of weeks ago, and with it was crawled, and within about 5 or 6 days in Search Console, the graph of impressions is starting to come up. And there's no other content. This is just AI content on those pages. And today I checked it, the first clicks are coming through. Only 1 or 2.
Wow.
But basically Google's seen it. It's gone, okay, fair enough. We'll start putting you in the SERPs, and it's obviously getting high enough in certain places that we're getting clicks. So I'd want to do more testing before I categorically start here and said it's all brilliant, go for it. It's caveat emptor with these. It's it's early days with the AI. No one really knows where the limits are, and how far you can push it. But we put this in, and it's just great, especially just for niche research, to go through and look at how you could potentially answer the questions, what the key terms are, and what like with this Lego, it's bringing up, tells you what sets you need to start looking at to go off and research. So it's a real head start, if nothing else. But in some cases, the content's usable straight away.
Amazing. I love that. Were you going to show another feature as well? Or sorry, before I asked about the AI, I think you mentioned you're going to show something else.
Well, that was what I was going to.
Perfect. Okay.
I was going to show. Yeah. So
all right.
I think the
Great
only
minds
other
think alike.
So the other one to show is we haven't done the Content Explorer. So if we just do that one for Lego sets.
Right.
And this is now going to Google for the search term Lego sets, and it's now visiting some of the sites ranking for that, and it's pulling out, trying to pull out questions. Now, this one, depending on what sites are there, sometimes it's more valuable than others. But here, we can see these are the headers that it's found. So we see that there's some here that are repeating. So A-frame cabin is in 3 of them. So that's obviously something hot at the moment. Wildflower bouquet, that must be in there. Lord of the Rings Rivendell set, there must be 1. So
that's a cool feature.
And if you scroll down, you can see here it tells which site it went to. They're all Lego.com, so it's obviously ranking for a lot. It's one of those searches where Google's just given you one website with a whole lot, but it's gone through and it's gone to all those different pages and it's pulled it out. And then it also does suggest then other searches to try. So we could try it for Lego sets for kids, and we go back up there. So that's taken us back up to people also ask. So it's just that's a really cool thing, and that's one thing we always do, just to see what the ranking sites are actually, what content they've got in there.
Can you enter URL as well, or is it just the keyword, and Google will crawl the results for the content feature?
Well, it'd be nice to put a URL in, wouldn't it? But no, the way it works is it will go to the SERPs, does the query, goes to SERPs, and pulls out some,
which is probably the most important.
Yeah, because they're the ones that are ranking basically. So we tend to not get too hung up on individual sites and what they're doing. It's more about what's appearing in Google, what does Google surface for the term rather than trying to do your own research, basically.
I love that feature. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, typically what I want when I'm looking up like competitive research, if you would, or content audits, is like I want a diversity of like content mixtures. So yes, what are all of the pages kind of like? What does their content look like? What type of questions? So it's cool that the tool would basically analyze each one of those and then lay out basically the site or like a new site structure that looks a lot like the web that we see. So I think that's super fascinating. I don't think I've ever really seen that before from other tools. I think that's really neat.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. No, so there's that. And then, yeah, so, and I'm just finishing up on the AI. We have got the AI assistant. So with this, it's not really keywords people use, but you can ask, if you ask the right questions, you can get some good stuff out of it. So so you could say, can you identify, let's try topic clusters for the topic Lego. I mean, it may or may not, we'll see what we get at, but it can be useful. And it can take a minute or two, depending on how complicated a question you ask.
Right.
So here, right, yeah, so it's come up and it said, yeah, so we've got building and design, collecting, history, events and media. Actually, that's pretty good, you know. But those could be site sections quite easily, and it's even giving you topics related. Yeah, it starts giving you a good start. Thinking, yeah, actually, we could start something for me, and you can then go back in and then start asking questions based on that. And if you don't like what it's done, you can just
refresh
there, and it will just give us another answer.
Right.
And yeah, so I mean, sometimes it's caught with some really big ones.
Right.
And that time it doesn't seem to have changed. But again, I say that one thing there, that's very new at the moment, and we've not quite worked out the best way to use it. So it's
coming along though. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Ed, this was great, man. I certainly learned a lot from your tool. I'm definitely gonna check it out, especially the Content Explorer. I love that feature a lot, in addition to a lot of the other features that you mentioned today. If people want to reach you, where can they find you? So just can you give a shout out in terms of where people can find you online?
Yeah, they can, keywordspeopleuse.com. We've got live chat on there, and there's a contact form, so they can just contact me through that. I'm on Twitter. My handle is Channel5, at Channel5. That goes back to being quite old and having been on the internet when people didn't use their real names. And I was back on SEO forums in the early 2000s when no one used a real name. That was SEO chat, where people like Rand Fishkin, Barry Schwartz, Marie Haynes. I remember when Marie Haynes was a noob.
Yes.
And she came on. And she was just trying to get her vet site ranking better. So I've got a very old Twitter handle, so it's Channel5. And you can find me on there. And another thing, I mean, if you want, if people wanted to try the tool, there's a coupon code, free month. If they'd use that at checkout, they'll get a month free of Light, Pro or Standard. That's if anyone wants to try it, get a month free. Have it on us, no problem.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And you said can you repeat the promo code one more time so the folks know?
Yeah, all one word, free month.
Free month. Y'all heard that. Free month. Try it out. Give it a shot. It's a great tool. Ed, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Anytime. Take care, everybody.
Take care. See ya.